So if you look at the PGA Tour schedule for November 2026, one of the most anticipated events isn't happening at some, centuries-old country club. It's not even a legacy network broadcast.
Right, yeah.
It's being hosted by a group of 20-something YouTubers in Austin, Texas. Guys who basically turned their casual weekend scrambles into a $45 million media empire, and now they are putting their name on a sanctioned professional tournament.
I mean, that single event perfectly illustrates just this massive rupture in how we traditionally understand the sport.
Mhm.
For centuries, golf was defined by its physical boundaries, a manicured 18-hole course and a very strict localized culture. But the data we are pulling from today indicates those boundaries have just, well, entirely collapsed.
Yeah, and welcome to the deep dive. If you're a learner who wants to understand the underlying forces reshaping global industries, you are definitely in the right place today.
Yep.
We have a massive stack of sources today. We're looking at the National Golf Foundation's 2026 Graphis Report, some dense USGA technical documents on equipment regulation, financial analyses of the creator economy from a great book called The Business of Golf, and even tech white papers on AI coaching platforms like Sportsbox AI and Joe Code.
It's a lot of ground to cover, yeah.
It really is. And our mission today is to explore what the data calls the great decoupling of golf. The sport is undergoing this sort of triphasic evolution, a total restructuring of its physical, technological, and cultural boundaries that is pushing it toward an unprecedented 50 million participants in the U.S. alone.
Which is just a staggering number when you think about where the game was even a decade ago.
Totally. Okay, so let's unpack this because I like to think of it as a three-front revolution. But golf is traditionally seen as, like, the most stubborn, rule-bound sport on Earth. How does a game famous for blazers and country clubs suddenly become this digital, creator-led juggernaut?
What's fascinating here is that to understand this shift, we really have to look at the tension between preservation and progression. Like, to save the physical courses, the game is actually being forced to move indoors and online.
All right.
The governing bodies are trying to save the physical footprint of the sport by artificially limiting the equipment, while at the exact same time, technology is just democratizing how the game is played and consumed.
Okay, so we should dive straight into that physical limitation first, because the golf ball rollback is really the catalyst for so much of this disruption, right?
Yeah.
The USGA and the R&A, the sports governing bodies, made this monumental decision to change the overall distance standard. And historically, to be deemed legal, a golf ball was tested mechanically at a clubhead speed of 120 miles per hour, and it couldn't fly further than 317 yards.
Right, but the problem there is that the modern elite athlete has completely shattered the relevance of that old test.
Oh, totally.
I mean, by 2025, the average driving distance on the PGA Tour hit 302.8 yards. You had dozens of players routinely generating clubhead speeds well over 120 miles per hour. So the governing bodies had to update the test parameters to reflect modern biomechanics.
So it changed the testing speed, right?
Yeah, the new testing speed is 125 miles per hour, but, and this is the kicker, that 317-yard cap remains exactly the same.
Wow. So if you test a current modern golf ball at 125 miles per hour, it's just going to blow right past that limit and be ruled illegal.
Exactly. It forces the manufacturers to basically re-engineer the physics of the golf ball to make it intentionally less efficient.
Like they have to actively make the product worse.
Well, yes, in a way. They have to alter the aerodynamics, maybe change the depth and pattern of the dimples to increase aerodynamic drag, or modify the polymer core so the transfer of kinetic energy from the club to the ball is reduced.
That's crazy. But the physical impact of those changes varies dramatically based on who is swinging the club, doesn't it?
Right, it does. Elite professionals are modeled to lose about 13 to 15 yards off the tee. But your average recreational amateur golfer, whose swing speed generally sits around 93 miles per hour, they're going to experience a much smaller penalty.
Because they don't swing fast enough to trigger the drag.
Exactly. They aren't compressing the ball enough to trigger those massive drag penalties that are engineered for the high speeds. So amateurs will likely lose 5 yards or less.
Okay, but the obvious question for you, the learner, is why? Like, why are the governing bodies stepping in to artificially suppress human athletic achievement?
It really comes down to real estate and environmental sustainability.
Mm.
Elite players are just hitting the ball so far that classic historic golf courses are becoming structurally obsolete.
I mean, to challenge a modern tour pro now, courses are having to push their boundaries out to like 7,500 or even 8,000 yards.
Which is unsustainable. Expanding a course by 500 yards requires acquiring more land, pumping millions of additional gallons of water, applying way more fertilizer, and drastically increasing labor costs.
Yeah, the physical footprint of the professional game was becoming financially and environmentally ruinous.
Right, and the USGA basically determined that trying to outbuild the modern athlete was a losing battle. The only sustainable variable they could actually control was the golf ball itself.
That makes sense. Though originally they floated the idea of bifurcation, right? Like a phased approach where pros would play the rolled back ball in 2028 and amateurs would switch in 2030.
They did, but logistically that is just a nightmare for the supply chain.
Oh, I can imagine. If you run a local pro shop, trying to manage inventory and explain to a guy which ball is legal for his Tuesday night league versus the weekend club championship, it's total chaos.
Exactly. So the industry pushed back hard, which led the USGA and R&A to shift toward a single, unified rollout date across the entire sport in January 2030.
Which, of course, caused a massive cultural fallout. It really fractured the sport into two distinct ideological camps. And we want to be clear that we're just reporting impartially on the source material here.
Right, we're not taking a side, but the divide is very real. You have players like Rory McIlroy who have thrown their weight behind the rollback. His argument is that golf at the highest level should be a comprehensive test of shot making, strategy, and precision, rather than just a one-dimensional display of raw power.
Because limiting the ball brings long irons and mid irons back into the professional game, right?
Precisely. But then the counterargument comes from organizations like the PGA of America, who represent the thousands of club professionals teaching the everyday player.
And their stance is basically, look, golf is already one of the most notoriously difficult sports on earth. Imposing a universal rollback penalizes the 99% of amateurs who already struggle to hit the ball far enough.
Yeah, they argue that taking any distance away from a weekend player fundamentally makes the game less enjoyable. Both sides have very valid points based on who they represent.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me, though. If I'm an amateur losing 5 yards, why should I care? Isn't this just kind of like baseball switching from aluminum to wood bats? The game adapts.
It does, but what's particularly compelling about this dynamic is the technological irony. The governing bodies are literally legislating a physical performance deficit into the equipment.
Right.
But human nature dictates that athletes will always seek an advantage. So that artificially imposed deficit is accelerating massive investment into our next focal point, which is biomechanical technology and artificial intelligence.
Because players are looking for ways to reclaim every single inch of distance they're losing.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this performance deficit is exactly what is fueling the explosion of golf tech.
Oh, the indoor golf and simulator market is just exploding. I mean, the data shows it's projected to reach $4.7 billion by 2034.
It's massive, and we are light years beyond just hitting a ball into a canvas net in a dark garage.
Yeah, the technology accessible to the everyday player right now is staggering. We are seeing widespread adoption of Markerless 3D motion capture. Apps like Sportsbox AI and Sweet AI, they can track 33 different skeletal points on your body using nothing but the standard 2D camera on your smartphone.
Which is a huge breakthrough in computer vision. Historically, if you wanted 3D motion capture, you had to wear this specialized suit covered in reflective sensors, standing in a studio surrounded by multiple infrared cameras.
Like they do for video game design, right?
Yeah, exactly. But now, AI neural networks have been trained on millions of data points of human golf swings.
Yeah.
So the AI can analyze the pixel shading, edge detection, and body geometry from a single 2D smartphone video.
That's wild.
And it mathematically infers the 3D depth and rotation of your torso, your pelvis, and your limbs with extreme precision.
Which fundamentally changes how motor skills are acquired. I mean, for the last 15 years, digital golf instruction was basically just a one-way broadcast. You'd watch a YouTube video of a famous coach explaining a flaw, and then you went to the range to try and fix it yourself.
Right, but the human brain is notoriously bad at proprioception, knowing where your body actually is in space.
Oh, definitely. You might feel like you're executing a perfect swing, but your body's doing something completely different.
And that disconnect is solved by bidirectional AI coaching. Platforms like Joe8 Code ingest that markerless 3D data and provide an immediate, objective feedback loop.
So you hit a shot in front of your phone, and the AI instantaneously calculates your GOAT score.
Exactly. It identifies specific biomechanical inefficiencies. Maybe your lead wrist is too extended at the top of the swing, or your center of mass shifted too far laterally.
And crucially, it provides audible cues between your practice reps. It's moving the whole learning process from this subjective feeling to objective, data-driven correction.
It really is. Now, a lot of teaching professionals look at an AI that can diagnose a swing flaw in milliseconds, and they worry that their entire profession is about to be automated out of existence.
Yeah, are human coaches going the way of the travel agent? It feels like having a tour pro in your pocket who never gets tired of watching your terrible swing.
Well, the reality is much more nuanced. AI won't replace coaches. It will replace coaches who don't use AI.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
This technology acts like a word processor spell check for biomechanics. The AI instantly flags the grammatical errors in your swing, the incorrect wrist angle, the poor hip rotation. But it still takes a human coach to teach you how to actually write a compelling essay.
Right, because an AI cannot manage an athlete's emotional state after a devastating double bogey on the ninth hole.
Exactly. It can't teach course management or situational strategy or how to handle tournament pressure. The coaches who thrive in this new ecosystem are outsourcing the repetitive diagnostic work to the machine, which frees them up to do the relational, emotional coaching.
Which makes total sense. And this technological renaissance isn't just confined to amateur practice sessions either. It's completely redefining the professional entertainment product.
Oh, absolutely. Look at TGL.
Yes,
Oh, it's
PGL, the new indoor golf league, spearheaded by Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy. It is the ultimate virtualization of professional golf.
It really is. They've transformed simulator golf into a massive televised arena sport at the SoFi Center.
Yeah, they play on these giant high-definition screens combined with a shifting mechanical green complex that literally physically changes its topography for every putt.
The structural genius of TGL, though, is its embrace of gamification. They completely abandoned the constraint of simulating real-world 18-hole courses.
Right, instead they engineer these fantasy environments that test specific athletic skills. Like they have a stinger hole where players have to hit these low trajectory shots to avoid virtual overhanging cliffs.
Or the caverns hole, where they're navigating through a virtual cave system to avoid stalactites. It introduces a video game logic to live athletic execution.
And the viewership data proves this format is resonating. TGL is pulling in over 500,000 viewers for these matches, but the really vital metric is the demographics.
This is key. The median age of their audience is 57.5 years old.
Which sounds high until you compare it to the traditional PGA Tour audience, whose median age hovers around 63.
Exactly. TGL demonstrates that younger audiences are willing to consume golf, but they demand formats that are fast-paced, tech-forward, and natively designed for a digital-first generation.
And that success with a younger demographic leads us perfectly into the third phase of this revolution, because that exact same audience, the one embracing virtual gamified golf, is completely dismantling the traditional sports media landscape on YouTube.
The demographic disparity between legacy golf broadcasting and the creator economy is just severe. Traditional Golf Channel viewers are aging out of the advertiser-coveted demographics.
While YouTube golf channels have a vice grip on the 18 to 34-year-old market,
Right. This is a massive reallocation of attention, which inevitably triggers a massive reallocation of capital.
let's talk about the money, because if a brand wants to buy a title sponsorship for a standard PGA Tour event, it costs anywhere from $3 to $6 million. And in exchange, they just get passive viewership.
Yeah, their logo sits on a physical banner behind a tee box while viewers casually watch the broadcast.
But brands have discovered that they can redirect just a fraction of that budget, say $500,000 to $850,000, into creator partnerships and achieve an exponentially higher return on investment.
And the difference lies in the nature of the engagement. Traditional TV relies on the prestige of the tournament. The viewer is there for the competition, and the advertising is just an interruption.
Exactly. Whereas the creator model relies on parasocial relationships. When a viewer watches a 40-minute video of a YouTuber they feel personally connected to, the engagement is super active.
Apparel brands like Melbourne Golf have leveraged this dynamic to hit over $100 million in revenue, largely bypassing traditional tour athlete endorsements entirely in favor of lifestyle creators.
It's the content to commerce model. And Good Golf is the ultimate case study here. They are a collective of young creators who built an audience of over 2 million subscribers just by filming themselves doing challenges and scrambles.
And they recently secured a $45 million investment round from major players like Creator Sports Capital and Omaha Productions.
45 million. For Good, the YouTube videos aren't even advertisements for their apparel. The media itself is a standalone profit center that simultaneously drives massive merchandise conversions.
Because fans buy the gear not for its technical specs, but as a badge of tribal affiliation with the creators.
Right. And the institutional response to this disruption is so telling. Historically, legacy sports leagues try to crush or ignore digital upstarts, but the PGA Tour is actually partnering with them.
They've chosen deep integration. After testing the waters with the Creator Classic exhibitions, which generated 16 million cross-platform views, they made that landmark decision you mentioned at the start of our deep dive.
Yes. The Good Championship in November 2026,
Mm-hmm.
an official 120-player FedEx Cup fall event in Austin. The PGA Tour is literally franchising the naming rights and promotional engine of a sanctioned tournament to a YouTube channel.
It's unprecedented.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't there a ceiling here? Like, traditional sports rely on the uncertainty of live drama. You cannot pre-package the tension of a Sunday back nine at Augusta National.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The majors are safe.
Right, because creator golf is mostly pre-recorded scrambles where the outcome doesn't really matter. Can banter actually replace live tension?
It won't replace the premium live tension. The existential threat is aimed squarely at the mid-tier events. The analytics perfectly align with your hypothesis. Tournaments like the John Deere Classic or the Sanderson Farms Championship are experiencing significant viewer attrition, especially among younger demographics.
Because the audience isn't choosing between the Masters and a YouTube video.
Exactly. They're choosing between a relatively low-stakes, slow-paced Thursday broadcast of a mid-tier tour event and highly edited, personality-driven creator content. And the creators are winning that specific battle for attention.
So what happens next? According to the financial models in the business of golf, there are 3 likely paths forward over the next decade. The first is absorption, where the PGA Tour uses its massive capital reserves to just buy up the major creator channels and vertically integrate them.
The second is coexistence. Basically a bifurcated media landscape where traditional broadcasts serve an older, affluent demographic, while creators serve the youth, operating in parallel but separate lanes.
And the third, which is the most disruptive, is displacement. If creator golf keeps growing, those traditional mid-tier events might be forced to restructure entirely.
Yeah, instead of operating as live television windows with passive galleries, they could transform into digital-first content creation festivals, built primarily for streaming and social media.
Wow. So when you synthesize all this data for you, the learner, the concept of the great decoupling becomes incredibly clear. Golf is simply no longer restricted to an 18-hole outdoor course with a strict dress code.
No, it's evolved into a ubiquitous multi-channel ecosystem. The traditional barriers to entry like geography, cost, and physical limitation, they're being systematically dismantled by technology and new media.
Exactly. You could literally play a physical round with a distance-limited rolled-back ball on a Saturday morning. Then that afternoon, you get AI swing coaching on your phone in your living room. And that night, you're watching a good golf scramble on your tablet.
The game exists simultaneously across physical, digital, and cultural planes now, which leaves us with a fascinating, almost provocative question to mull over.
Let's hear it.
As AI becomes capable of perfectly simulating human athletic performance, and virtual reality matches physical reality, will a major championship in 2040 be won by someone who learned to play entirely in a simulator without ever stepping foot on real grass until they turn pro?
Oh man, that is a staggering thought to end on. A totally new reality for the sport.
It really is.
Well, if you enjoy this kind of content, please subscribe to our channel. It really helps us continue creating and delivering content like this for you in the future.